whether it's alcohol or drugs or whatever you like, the main thing that seems to be going on is it is discharging a profound inner tension. Okay, there's two things. There's kind of two components to it, I guess. There's the discharging the inner tension, that might be by numbing oneself or by distracting oneself from what's going on. Okay, and there could be all kinds of things going on. It could be chaos in your here and now existence, or it could be, you know, dealing with trauma or whatever in the past, or it could
sometimes it's boredom, and the sense of kind of the loneliness that comes with the boredom. And we see that maybe not necessarily just with drugs and alcohol, but phone addiction, of people constantly having their face in their phone, of not able to tolerate the sense of...
I would actually say that's not... You're probably right about the boredom, but I think what's going on there is actually people have difficulty tolerating themselves or their silence or what's going on in their mind. So so it's not so much, geez, I'm bored, I need to, you know, I think it's about, I can't tolerate what's going on in my mind. I can't sit with the silence. Okay, I need to do this. This is causing me some tension. Whereas if I scroll through my thing, I'm feeling a sense of relief.
Or connection, because it's the boredom that triggers the loneliness that can then kind of have the need to fill the void or discharge the tension of the loneliness that leads to things around, I need something. Yeah,
it's a put it this way, I think what people are sort of trying to do with their addictive behaviours is feel okay again, sort of achieve a sense of equanimity or something, because that's not what's going on. So they need something to try and get to that. Okay.
And then it becomes addiction when that gets out of hand and there's more consequences after the fact.
Well, that's right. So
because if there's no consequences, it would just be a coping mechanism, wouldn't it?
Sure.
So it's addiction once there's consequences.
Yeah, but I think there's another part before we get into the consequences. The reason there's consequences is, so if it was just about, if you could just numb the pain or numb the problem or distract yourself from the problem and then everything else is fine, well, good for you. You know, off you go. One of the reasons why these things tend to be quite powerful is they activate a system in your brain called the reward system.
Yes, of course.
Okay, so this is a bit of a problem. Okay, so the things that normally physiologically activate the reward system have a sort of a shut-off system as well. Okay, let's say you're thirsty. Okay, geez, I'm really thirsty. That activates a sort of drive to get some water. Okay, and you drink until the thirst is quenched. Okay,
so that's accelerate and brake sort of.
Yeah, and there is, when you're really thirsty, and if you quench that thirst, you actually do get a reward system activation. Okay, but you're not compelled to drink 50 litres of water.
No.
Okay, there is a feedback mechanism which kicks in. Okay. That's not the case with addictions necessarily. Okay. Often what happens is there's no kind of feedback mechanism that shuts off that addictive behaviour.
So is that kind of, there's no sense of, oh, I've had enough now, I feel all right now, and
well, it can be like that, or it's very temporary. Okay, let's say someone who's got a sugar addiction. Okay, they might have, you know, I'm feeling really stressed out or whatever's causing me this state of inattention. I'll have a couple of bits of chocky. Okay, I feel better now. Okay, but that doesn't last very long. Okay, I need a couple more bits of chocky or another cigarette or whatever it is. Okay, so it's not like the system has recognised, oh, we've definitely got enough water, we can chill out now. Okay, it's not enough. Okay, it's we need to discharge that tension, and there's no sort of good tight feedback loop doing that.
But does that come back to the fact that the chocolate or the Tim Tam doesn't actually resolve the need of, I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed, I'm feeling lonely?
Well, 100%. 100%. It is a Bandaid that gets you through a difficult moment. But if you haven't done anything to actually resolve the difficult moment other than have your Bandaid, then the difficult moment's going to face you again very soon.
Hence why you want the second Tim Tam and then the third Tim Tam and then the packet's gone.
Exactly. And then, of course, you have the issue of, oh my God, I just had a packet of Tim Tams. What's wrong guilt, with me?
Shame spiral.
All that kind of stuff. So we've got, so let's just clarify that. So we've got the numbing or distracting from the underlying issue, which could be rooted in the past or something in the present or both. And then we've got the activation of the reward system in a kind of dysregulated manner where we get relief. The other thing that
what about the biology of the stuff that's actually, the substance is addictive itself? Sugar is highly addictive.
Yes.
Many drugs are highly addictive. Nicotine's highly addictive.
Yes.
Where does that come into it?
Okay. There's two things here. So one of them is there's not a good feedback loop that shuts it off. Okay. So that's kind of major, all right?
Yeah.
But then with some things, I guess now we're talking more with things like alcohol and most sort of drugs of addiction, okay? The problem with those things are you've got to pay interest on those.
Yes.
Okay, so let's say, okay, I'm nice and drunk now.
Yeah.
All right, you beauty, I'm feeling real chill, I'm super snozzled, all right? Guess what, the next day, okay, what's actually going to happen is I'm paying interest on that. There's a rebound effect that happens, okay?
Yeah.
So now I'm super sensitive. All right.
Because you're hungover.
Yeah. Well, you've got
the psychological
it's
sensitivity.
Both things. It's both things. So you've got the, oh my God, I feel sick. Okay, so that's a problem. But you've also got the relaxation kind of pathways, if you will. They're now reversed. Okay, so now you're more tense than you would have been otherwise. Okay. Now, if you drank because something really stressful happened that day, but the next day that issue's gone, well, you know, it's probably not going to be a catastrophe.
Yep.
But if it's because, well, my life is always a catastrophe, okay, and now I'm drinking, well, the next day you're facing that, but you're even more sensitive.
Yeah.
So guess what you're going to do?
Have another.
You're probably going to drink some more. So that way you feel better, relief.
Yep.
Okay, so there's a component in addiction which has got to do with literally an adaptation of brain chemistry. Okay, and so you've got to remedy that.
Yep.
Have your alcohol or your crack or whatever you're up to. Okay, whatever your flavour is. Okay, you got to have that. Okay, which really gets people in lock and step because they've still got all the other baggage.
Yes.
All right, and chances are, if you've been doing this for a while, your life is becoming chaotic from the addiction stuff as well. Okay, so your relationships are in trouble, or you feel like you're neglecting your family, or you name it, all kinds of
terrible
stuff.
You're going to kind of extended measures in order to get your hands on whatever it is, and maybe there's some secrecy around that, or hiding stuff.
Sometimes your life can become about fueling the addiction.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's actually not a bad distraction from the trauma of the childhood or whatever's got you there. Okay, because now it's all about getting my next hit, and the fact that all this other stuff happened to me kind of takes a back seat because when you're really, if you're in a opioid kind of withdrawal, nothing else matters other than getting your opioid. Okay. So if you like the drugs of addiction, they are very potently reinforced because the next day or whenever it wears off, you're really kind of aching.
Yeah.
Okay. But even with the other sort of addictions, the sugar addictions, the nail biting, the scrolling through your whatever, you don't get the same level of chaos ensuing as a result. So your life doesn't tend to become about chewing your nails.
Yes.
Okay. Whereas your life can become about the alcohol or the drugs or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what do we do about it?
Okay. So again, you kind of need to think about this in tiers.
Yeah.
All right. So, if you're in I'm now withdrawing from heroin and I'm a real mess. All you can do is manage that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
all
there's
you can do is manage
acute detox. Kind of step one.
Yeah. So essentially, what you're trying to do is you've had. Depending on what's going on, it's either a massive upregulation of whatever receptors or a downregulation of the other receptors. So things are really out of whack without the substance on board. That takes a while to remedy. Okay, and there's various ways of doing it. So you might wean it, you might go cold turkey. There's all kinds of different things that you can do.
And some of those will need to be kind of monitored by medical professionals. Some of them may need to be done hospitalisation setting, depending on the intensity.
Depends on your poison.
So if you do know that you need to withdraw from something, particularly a substance, then you need to kind of be checking with your GP or kind of primary healthcare provider around this sort of stuff. Yeah.
So and if you can get on top of that, and that's a huge
thing.
Task, okay?
Yeah.
But if you can get on top of that, so there's all kinds of ways to kind of, people need to accept that that's what they need to do. If you don't, if you're just like, whatever, I'm going to Bali, you're not ready, and that's the way it is.
Yeah.
Okay. So once people accept that there's an issue, then they can actually maybe do something about it.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So let's say depending on what the substance of addiction is, let's say you grapple with that, okay, and you're able to lessen that. Well, that's good, but now you're back to your original problem.
Yeah, you've taken away your Bandaid and now you're left with the chaos.
Yeah, exactly. So you've got chaos from the past to the present, okay, and you're not activating your reward system at all.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're not numbing yourself out, and you're not doing anything to feel good, and so how are you going to sustain that?
Yeah.
Okay,
So you're
and
feeling everything without your coping mechanism.
Exactly. So what happens to most people?
relapse.
Okay, and there's actually, we learn about this thing called the Proskauer and De Clementi cycle, the cycle of addiction, and it's always written as there's always relapse as the
Prochaska and De
right,
Clementi.
thank you. Yeah, there's always relapse is always kind of step 5 or whatever. It's like thanks guys.
Yeah.
Cycle of change. Thank you. Okay, so we need to. There's a couple of things that we need to do. Okay, so we need to ideally have some other things that we can do that can help activate our reward pathway.
Yeah, nice. Okay. So if you're going to take something away, you've got to substitute it, but ideally substitute it with something skillful.
Ideally, yeah. When in fact it has to be.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now, depending on what your poison is, this is an issue, because if you're addicted to the most rewarding thing, like if you're on crack or something, right, and you're really kind of, well, going for a little jog's probably not going to get it done, right? So, so we need to come up with alternatives that give us some sort of reward.
Yep.
Okay, some sort of reward. And that's something that's very individual. So what pushes your buttons might not push mine, and vice versa. Okay, so there's a fair bit of sort of detective work that needs to be done around that. Okay.
And I've heard a saying in working with patients around addiction of sometimes when they take away one, they substitute it for another, and they say swapping the witch for the bitch. So taking away something harmful like crack cocaine, but if you then substitute it with another substance that causes more issues, maybe kind of less harmful, but still an addiction, then you've got to be really kind of mindful around what you're substituting it with. So don't stop taking crack and then get a sugar addiction, because
then you just got to. Well, issues. Yeah. I mean, it's probably. I mean, a sugar addiction is probably less catastrophic to your world. Okay, but now you're, obesity, self-esteem, diet, etc., and so
more problems.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are some adaptive ways of tickling your reward system. Okay. As opposed to maladaptive ways. So it's figuring out what are the adaptive ways in a given individual. A lot of people go, I don't have anything. This is where the work is.
Yeah, the work is get creative. Go out and try stuff and see what works. And for most people, they're going to need some external support to manage this. Yeah. Psychologist, psychiatrist, GP, counsellor, whatever.
Often people go to rehab and what that's usually a number of months. And that gives their brain, I mean, you're not having much fun in rehab, and a large part of that is it's giving your brain this opportunity to kind of rebalance itself. So you might actually find some things enjoyable. If you're used to having, massive hits of whatever, it's pretty hard to activate that pathway for some months.
But then you've got the secondary benefit that when you're in a structured rehab environment, they're providing order to the chaos.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So we've got to deal with the sort of like the matter at hand is literally the addiction that faces people. Yeah. Okay. So let's say we've managed to get off that substance. We've managed to put in some other things that can activate sort of reward pathways, so we can actually get by. All right. We've still got the underlying thing that drove us to become addicted in the first place that may well still be there. Okay. And so that's where some work needs to be done.
Yep.
Okay. And what I've found is people tend to be very, very reluctant. And that's why they've been drinking, right? Because they didn't want to face their stuff.
They didn't want to deal with it in the first place, or don't know how to, or believe that they wouldn't be able to tolerate it, or...
Yeah, so I think this part is critical. So, I mean, I think in addictions medicine, mostly it's about what we've discussed. It's about reducing the amount of addictive substance that's being used and using medications to replace, methadone for your heroin problem, or whatever else, It's sort of about, Valium for your alcohol. It's really kind of a harm reduction approach, and that's great. Harm reduction is good, but we're not actually getting to the root of things. So I'm all for harm reduction, and what that will do is it'll reduce the chaos in the here and now.
Yes.
Okay, and that might open up some space for you to then start dealing with the more, the deeper stuff. Okay, which actually got you there.
Yep.
All right. So then I guess this sort of becomes more. This is getting more into the sort of psychological realm, because then it's like, well, how do you help people deal with that stuff?
Well, that's going to be highly individualized depending on what the issue is in the first place. So that may be where schema therapy comes in, or trauma-focused therapy comes in, or kind of relationship counselling if that's the reason why you're drinking. So it's step 1, detox from the substance.
Yeah.
Step 2, substitute some positive activity that's going to reactivate the reward system.
Yeah.
And then step 3, go get some therapy to work with the underlying issue.
Yeah. Let's just look a bit more about the underlying issue. Often people won't have a sense of what their underlying issue even is.
True.
Okay, because they've been kind of running from it for ages.
Okay.
So one thing that can be helpful for people is if you get someone who is, I mean, with alcohol, it's sort of easier to do because you substitute alcohol for something like Valium. Okay, you get that to a dose whereby they're not off their face. Okay, and they can think clearly. Okay, but there's enough sort of enough numbing that they're not freaking out. Okay, but not so much that they can't even think about stuff. Right, and then basically you just ask them to examine what's coming up for them. What are they avoiding? And close your eyes. What's coming up for you?
When it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you can't sleep.
And you can't sleep. What's coming up for you? Exactly. And usually the clues are all there. The reason why you can't sleep, what's on your mind, that's probably what you need to be working on. Okay, that's the clue. The clue is when your mind is still, what is your mind screaming at you that you've been trying to block out? Okay. So psychological therapy is one of the best ways to get at that. There's more and more work being done now, especially in the States, using psychedelic substances to help people unpack their stuff. Okay, so this is not something that's happening in Australia, but it's really becoming more and more commonplace with some pretty spectacular results in the States. Okay, they're mostly farming it off to South America actually to do. Okay, so I think that's an exciting prospect for the future. The thing about these substances is they're not addictive in their own right. Normally people have it once, they get all this stuff of their past colliding at them, and they're not in a hurry to use it again. So it's curious. Anyway, so that's sort of addictions in a nutshell, I think.
Addictions in a nutshell,
All right.
Okay. Hope that was helpful, guys. Leave us some comments on our YouTube channel. Head over to our website, thepsychcollective.com, to see some more of our resources that we'll put up for you about addiction. Thanks, guys. See ya.